you know, in the fight, there wasn't a moment where you're comfortable, you know, like, oh, I can just chill, I can relax. No, it's rough. I mean, that was definitely one of my toughest fights for sure. You know, but just believe, you know, having all your coaches and people around you believe in you, you know, you kind of like, you know, your parents, your family, your coaches that believe in you. Like, well, they believe in me, you know, why shouldn't I? And you know, it's a good feeling, you know, once you go through that battle and you know you can do it, you know, you're like, I can do this. I've been here before, you know. Everyone believes in you, you know what I mean? So, no, it's a good feeling. I guess what to take out of it, just, you know, knowing that you can go through that kind of, those battles, you know, getting knocked down, getting off track, just going through a lot of different, like, you know, hardships and being able to come out on top and know you can do it, you know, confidence for sure.
There was one point in time where me and Kerry were at a point in our bank accounts. We said, we can either pay the mortgage this month or we can eat this month. That's where we were at. We were at the bottom of the barrel scraping. And Kerry looked at me, she said, well, I want to eat. So she made the decision that I was losing sleep over so easy. She just said, oh, we're going to eat this month. We ate that month, and then we moved on from there. I mean, that was hard for the next 6 months, but we're doing okay. We're doing all right now, you know? So sometimes life is hard, man, but life, I think, is the hardest battle I've ever had, man. And it's going to just keep hitting you. It's going to keep hitting you. All you're going to do is hit back, keep your head above water, keep fighting. That's it.
I feel compelled to say the fight that I lost was the toughest fight I've had. But as far as internally, for me, it was my first fight in the UFC. Let me explain what goes on in the fight world. Before you're in the UFC, your person, your manager will call you up and say, all right, you're fighting Joe Schmo from the middle of Texas. All right, cool, here we go. And you fly out there and you fight this guy. Okay. Well, my manager calls me and says, okay, we finally got you a contract, you're going to fight in the UFC. I was excited. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. He said, okay, bad news. They don't have anywhere for you to really fight right now, so expect a last minute call. All right. I guess that's good news, right? So then out of nowhere, I get a call to fight Brian Stan. All right, this guy is a former world champion in the WEC. I pointed to Brandon because he's a former champion in WEC. This guy is world class. So you start getting these questions of, what did I just do? What have I signed up for? Am I really going to go through with this? Is this really going to happen? Am I going to get black and blue? How am I going to walk the next day? You're going to think these things, guys. Right? I'm serious. All right, do I belong in the UFC? Is this too soon? Should I fake an injury? But I'm just saying, you might think it. Hey, guys have noted. All right. So, you know what? I just, you know, I thought about it for a while. I said, you know, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to do this thing. I signed up to do this. I want to be a champion in the UFC. There are going to be no easy fights. This is who they're going to give me on short notice. Cool. I just trained my butt off for, I think I had 4 weeks. I got the call December 26, 2009. And I fought February 6, 2010. And I ended up winning. And once I was in the locker room, I never thought anything bad after that. Leading up to that, I was like, this may not go right. Once I got in that locker room, I just let it all go. Once you decide you're going to do something, just do it. Just do it. And that's kind of how it went for me.
I've had a lot of tough fights, and I've had my ass kicked a few times, but I think the toughest fight for me was the one before the UFC, and I actually won the fight. And the reason it was tough is because I used to take fights on like a day's notice, and I'd fight anybody, anywhere, whenever I could get it. And I fought one guy who was a UFC vet, and I knew that if I beat him, I got a good chance of getting a contract from the UFC. So I was fighting in my hometown. It was a tough back and forth fight, and I managed to knock him out. As soon as the fight was done, I left the cage, and a promoter from another show came up to me and he said, "We need a main event for a fight next week. Do you want to fight?" And I just want to fight, feeling great. Yeah, I'll fight, no problem, sign me up. So the next day he started getting posters printed and putting it all over the internet that I was fighting and stuff. The day after that, the UFC sent me a contract through. Now, I'd committed to fighting on this guy's show the week later. He'd already started selling tickets for the show, but then the UFC sent me a contract. But when they found out that I was fighting the week after, having already received the contract, Joe Silva called me up and he said, "Look, if you lose this fight, I've got to take the contract back." So the goal that I'd set for myself to get to the UFC was there in my hands. I had the contract, but I'd already committed to fight on another show the week later, knowing that if I lost the fight, I would have to fight my way back to the UFC again. And I was reading a book at the time, and I like books about samurai. And this book, it had one quote in it that said, "You should always make a decision within the space of 7 breaths." So, you know, try not to think about it too much. I know what the right thing to do was. I committed to fight on this show. I said I would fight for him. I know he was selling a lot of tickets because I was on the show, and I didn't want to let him down. So I said I would do it, and I told the UFC, "Look, you know, if I don't win this fight, I don't belong in the UFC anyway right now." So I took the fight. I was the most nervous I'd ever been because the contract for the UFC was sitting on the table at the side of the cage. And I was fighting this guy who was a real tough guy, for a German dude. Awesome submission game. As soon as the second round started, he came and took me down, I reversed the position, knocked him out with an elbow. And not only did I have the satisfaction of winning the fight, but I got the contract and I kept my word as well. So that was the toughest fight I went into because of what was on the line. And I made a decision within the space of 7 breaths, and I got the job done. And that was the toughest, but making a decision and sticking to it was the lesson in that fight.
Your story. You know what? I've been fighting now in the UFC for about 10 years, so I really don't have one that sticks out in my head as tough as the other one. They all kind of, everybody was tough. I think decision-wise, I probably have the same issues that almost everybody up here probably has. It's kind of cool being a UFC fighter, and you're in video games, and you're on pay-per-view, and you're on television. There's a lifestyle that opens up to you, that's available to you, that's not available to people that aren't on television. And so some of the fighters go down that path, and they party, and they get to enjoy the I guess the benefits of being a superstar. The downfall is they don't usually win fights anymore. They end up losing pretty quickly. They end up getting knocked out several times, and pretty much their career is over with. That's I guess, decision I think everybody probably, I personally struggle with a lot, is because that's enticing. I have friends that are single, and they go out and they tell me their stories. And last night on a Friday night, I was with him at the gym doing cardio. You know what I mean? That's my Friday night. Coming home at 10 o'clock at night, the most exciting part of my night was I got to play video games for about a half hour because my kids fell asleep before I got home. So, there's times where that can be frustrating, because doing the right thing and sometimes living a clean life is not the most exciting thing. I'll be honest with you. While you're doing it, it's not immediate gratification. There's no instant reward system. Whereas if you go out and you party and there's an attractive woman on your shoulder, and and you're going to have a drink, that's immediate gratification. But then the long-term results just aren't there. It's short-lived. It's high octane. You burn out really quickly. And the satisfaction I have winning fights, I've never taken anything or done anything or been with anybody in any way that can duplicate that result. There's something about walking into the locker room after a victory and knowing that you did everything right to deserve that victory, and it all came about in the right way. There's no drug like it in the world to have success in life, and then you have a moment, you sit there. In fact, it's actually kind of depressing, because usually the next day you can't wait till the next fight. You sit there, and my wife hates that. As soon as the fight's over with, I make a promise I won't talk about it for 2 weeks. But usually in the locker room, I'm talking to my coaches, like, okay, we just won this fight now. Okay, who's going to fight this? Okay, pay attention to who does the next one, because you're looking for that next achievement living. So it's like 3 or 4 months of just hardship and then a great reward at the end. And that's not always easy to do. I'll be honest, there's all kinds of times, I think all of us, we sit there and you're just like, you know, it'd be kind of cool to go out tonight, skip training tomorrow. You know, it's only half a day, it's not that big. It adds up real quick.